Art. When someone asks, who's your favorite artist? I feel like most would ask back, well, what type of art? It depends, because there's so many to choose from. There is the artistic drawing type of art or painter. Well, yeah, it could be Leonardo da Vinci, or it could be some unknown modern artist, which is very rare. What about musical artists? Well, there's Beyonce, there's Jay-Z, there's Kanye, there's Travis Scott, there's Yeats! But what if they're talking about sculpture? But what if they're talking about architecture? The thing about art is that it's so broad, you can't really put it into one singular category. It doesn't really fit into a container. It is more of a broad aspect. It could be a musical, or it could be an abstract piece made in, 2000 BC. So, what is art? Art. Art is a skill used by many to convey ideas and observations they see in the real world. The first example of this actually can be seen in Egypt, where they would use pictures on pyramids and whatnot and put it inside to convey a story for the future generations. And there can be a lot, and I mean a lot of different art styles and art methods that people will use to try to convey a story or an idea or description of something. And the ways are practically endless. We have abstract art, we have cartoon, we have anime, and then we have this. So about a year ago, I was scrolling on TikTok, as most people do, and I saw a suspicious amount of artists popping up on my page. But I was like, I think I can do that. So I made myself a new account, got myself a pencil and paper, and started drawing. Then shortly posted my first ever video on my TikTok account. This didn't do so well, and I kept doing it over and over again, and I ended up blowing up a couple of times. You might have seen it, but this became a series of mine where I would try to draw every day. But the reason I say that I've grown the most as an artist in these 30 days, even though my art might have not been the best these 30 days, is because of one simple thing. That thing being the way that I actually learn art, the fundamentals. See, what I've been doing for the past year or so on this art journey is simply looking at the reference, but not really understanding what I'm drawing. I would see a hand and try to draw it. I would see a face and try to draw it, but I wouldn't actually learn perspective. I wouldn't learn anatomy. I wouldn't learn any of the key parts that makes an artist, at least a good artist, an artist. I would just go through the motions. Now, don't get me wrong, looking at references are very good. I recommend it, and every artist I know recommends it. So if you haven't started implementing references into your pieces, do it now. It helps with accuracy and helps perfect that technique that you're going to need in the future. But what I'm not talking about is using reference. I'm talking about using your own mind for creativity outside the references as well. Use the reference as a base layer, but change it up in your own style. That is something I haven't been doing. That's why when I picked up my sketchbook, I decided I'm going to learn from the beginning. Shapes. Shapes are a pretty essential part of what makes art. The reason is you learn shapes from a very young age, and because of that, you can see pretty much anything in shapes. You can simplify any complex, intricate design into a few squares, cylinders, rectangles, and circles. You see this torso? Yeah, sure, it may look like it has a lot of muscle definition and whatnot, but in reality, it's really just a big box. This is why learning shapes early on is important. So that's exactly what I did, starting from zero. Starting from shapes, I started making them more detailed and whatnot. Then I started going into perspective and anatomy using these shapes simplified. This really helped me get a good understanding and grasp of how other artists see things at a simpler level. Now, while working on these shapes and perspective and anatomy did help me in the long run, it kind of got boring. After 2 to 3 days, I kind of got sick and tired of it, and I haven't really bore any fruits of my labor yet. So I went on Pinterest, looked at a reference, and I'm like, let me draw it using simple shapes. It ended up turning out pretty good in my opinion. I was really proud of it at the time. But obviously, looking back at it as a grown artist after those 30 days, I can definitely see some parts that need tweaking. But overall, I learned the fundamentals properly enough for me to implement it, and that was enough for me. Using these new profound fundamentals, I started to look at art differently. Yes, I still look at the reference, draw it, look at the reference, draw it, rinse and repeat as usual, but with a new profound knowledge. I would start to wonder, why is the artist doing certain cues, such as making the lines thicker, or making the face so expressive, like the eyes so big and the mouth so wide? Looking at reference is a tool to try to understand the artist, and that's what I'm trying to focus on more. So, where do you go from here? Well, what I did was keep on learning. You can't just learn it once and stop. You're going to forget it. That's why school goes on for as long as it does, because you forget. Art is the same way. It is a skill that you got to learn and master. And even masters still practice the techniques that they learned 5 years ago. So don't give up and keep on learning. Now, this video didn't go over all the art that I made over these 30 days. There are some that I missed, such as this, and this. And I even switched to digital, such as this, and this. But I hope you guys can forgive me for clickbaiting you guys just a little bit. For new beginners, I would suggest working on the fundamentals such as shapes, perspective, and anatomy. Those all will come in hand in the future drastically, especially if you're just starting out like now. And since you guys are already here, you might as well hit that subscribe button and that like button. And comment down below what you want me to cover up next, whether it is a tutorial, a speed paint, more art, pretty much anything.